God is in all places. And so it is that we give thanks that we are wondrously made and that we are blessed with capacities to feel and to give. And so as we enter into this time of offering, I hope that you can sense the power of being part of a mighty movement for grace and reconciliation in this world. Give with a sense of so deep gratitude that you are blessed with much and we get to share much. Let us enter into offering. Amen. This morning, we get to enter into the world of the book of Genesis. This is found in the Hebrew Scriptures in the Bible, and it's a wonderful text because it tells the story of Jacob, who was a trickster. And I like that about Jacob. He stole, as you'll remember, maybe you remember from your Sunday school lessons, he and his brother Esau were kind of rivals, and his brother Esau was a hunter and hairy, and he was more of an intellectual, and his mother loved him best and set up the father to give the birthright that was due Esau to Jacob. So Jacob stole his brother's birthright, and it inflamed the fury of his brother Esau, and Jacob is fleeing for his life, finds himself running from everything he knew and everything he thought he was, and is in a place where he only has a stone for a pillow. And this is what happens. Jacob left Beersheba and went toward Haran, and he came to a certain place and stayed there for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of the place, he put it under his head, and he lay down in that place. And he dreamed that there was a ladder set up on the earth, the top of it reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And the Lord stood beside him and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie I will give to you and to your offspring, and your offspring shall be like the dust of the earth, and you shall spread abroad to the west and to the east and to the south and to the north, and all of the families of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your offspring. Know that I am with you, and I will keep you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. And then Jacob woke from his sleep and said, Surely, surely the presence of the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid, and he said, How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. So Jacob rose early in the morning, and he took the stone that he had put under his head, and he set it up for a pillar, and he poured oil on top of it, and he called that place Bethel. Surely the presence of the Lord was in that place. May God add a blessing to the reading of this word. So here's one of my earliest memories. I remember being in the basement of the church that my father served when I was pre-elementary school. And that basement had checkered floor tiles. Maybe you remember a basement like that, a church basement like that. It was in Grand Forks and it was in a downtown church. It was an old building and it had that kind of musty basement-y church smell, which was kind of permeated with all kinds of other good smells that churches can come up with in life. And so we gathered together in that place for potlucks and for celebrations and for funeral luncheons. And what I remember is this: we would sing in that room. We would sing hymns and we would sing silly songs like John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. Maybe you remember that one. I certainly do. And all of those adults and children joining together in song absolutely sunk into my bones, and that melody is still part of who I am today. Thanks be to God. One of the songs that we used to sing that I remember very well was a song called Jacob's Ladder. And it was a ploddy, kind of repetitive song, which was kind of the best kind of a song for a young child to learn. And it seemed like when we did that song, when we sang Jacob's Ladder together, the very air in the room shifted. We would sing how it is that we are climbing Jacob's ladder. You know the rest of the song. And our voices would join together in that song. And I wondered as a child, why that ladder and why are we climbing it? And I know now that the song is sung to tell the story of a man who was running away from sure disaster. And he had found himself with nothing but a stone to lay his head upon. And in the vulnerability of sleep, he had a dream. And the dream showed him that in all of life, there are angels ascending and descending. The power of the holy permeates all of life, maybe most especially when we are on the run and we are afraid to even stop long enough to behold that miracle. We climb, you and I, this Jacob's ladder every day of our lives. There are troubles that can sometimes feel like they're chasing us so strongly and nipping at our heels, and we find ourselves clenching up and afraid. But what we hear in this lesson about this scoundrel on the run is that there are, even in the midst, and especially in the midst of such times, angels. The power of holiness never leaves us and never leaves this world God has created. God never leaves us. Throughout our lives, as we climb Jacob's ladder, we feel that every rung goes higher and higher. Maybe we find a little bit more wisdom on the way. Maybe we find a little bit more of ourselves along the way. And after a few verses, there is a stanza that I've thought about. It goes like this: sinner, do you love my Jesus? Sinner, do you love my Jesus? Sinner, do you love my Jesus? Soldiers of the cross. And for the longest time, I resisted that sinner language. But the story of Jacob in Genesis and my own story of my own life have taught me much about that. Jacob, who had heard about God from his father and who had participated in the rituals associated with his father, and Jacob, who had stolen the birthright of his brother and who was now fleeing from the fury of his brother Jacob, who found himself alone and on the run, broken and devastated by his own mistakes and his own scheming and his own brokenness, found himself vulnerable in the middle of the night. And as he came to know himself as broken, afraid, needful of help, as he came to know himself, in our language perhaps, as a sinner, he was able to open to what God was able to provide, and he entered into relationship with his own God, the God of his heart, not just the God that he had heard about, but the God who came and lived and blessed and inhabited his own soul. It's an incredible thing to know our own brokenness and our own need of holy grace. So when he feels that, in the most unlikely place, in the most unlikely set of circumstances, not in the middle of a sanctuary, well appointed, but in the middle of desolation, Jacob says, surely the presence of the Lord is in this fear-soaked and real place in my life. That's astounding good news. Jacob comes to know that all places are part of God's holiness, and in all places God's holiness is. So as we claim our own brokenness, our own places of remorse, and our own places of gnarliness, and the ways we can feel tempted, don't we feel tempted to run from the things that are yipping at our heels and that we don't really want to turn and look at and own and learn from, as we so long for the ministry of the angels and all that is holy to bring us wholeness. We are told by this story that those angels are there. Surely the presence of the Lord is in those places. The last stanza of that hymn is one that honestly, it felt like the heart of every singer was stretched open, because the last verse goes like this: if you love Jesus, why not serve him? And we serve Jesus by living the way of love with ourselves and with each other. So when the church basement singers got to that stanza, there was a palpable shimmer in the air, enough that a 5-year-old can still remember it at the ripe old age that I am on this day. The God who makes promises about loving us through our mistakes, the God who is in the presence of holiness, that God is our God, the God of our fathers, the God of our mothers, and please God, the God of those generations yet to come. Yesterday I was in the company of one of our church beloveds, and as we shared conversation together, she mentioned how much she longs to be able to be in our sanctuary, which is a holy of holy place. And as she was talking about it, she started to weep, and so did I, because that's what I do. And what it helped me to know is the power of having sacred space where we have encountered those ascending and descending angels, and where we come together and feel the presence of the Lord in that place. And what blesses me on this day, as I consider that grief we feel for the dislocation of these days, what we're called to remember is this lesson from Jacob's life. God's in all places. So wherever it is you find yourself this morning, whether it's on your living room couch, eating the holy donuts, or wherever it is you are, if you're watching it on Sunday or Monday or Tuesday, it doesn't matter. What I hope you feel so strongly, and what I am so grateful to hold to my heart, is this: God is in it all. God is present in all things. And here is my prayer. My prayer is that when Felix, whom you met earlier, when Felix finds himself in times of desolation, in times when he is running from his decisions, mistakes he has made and will make, that he will know his own personal relationship with the God of his grandmother and his grandfather, the God of his mother and father, the God that has loved us so passionately and tenaciously throughout time. May it be so. Amen.